Screenplay format is the conventions used to properly construct your script. How you handle scene headings, action, characters, dialogue, and transitions are all dictated by that format, and this determines what a screenplay looks like, the visual page itself. It's essential to understand that your screenplay is a visual description of what the audience sees transpiring on screen. It always moves forward in the now, and therefore must be written in present tense. Even a flashback is still experienced in the present. Take, for example, Christopher Nolan's thriller Memento. Even though Nolan tells the story in reverse, each scene in and of itself moves forward in a linear fashion. There are very specific and required technical specifications to screenplay format. So using the proper font and correct page margins for scene headings, action, character, parentheticals, dialogue, and transitions is required. These specs are not easy to execute in a standard word processing program, so we recommend using screenwriting software, which becomes an invaluable tool because it formats all these specifications for you automatically. Location is set at the beginning of every scene, depicted in the scene heading as a brief one-line description of the visual representation of place and time. Beyond mastering the basics of scene headings, it's important to understand how to handle the differences between general and specific locations, when large locations are necessary, as well as how to incorporate subheadings and title cards. Scene headings, also called sluglines, should paint a specific and concise picture of the scene at hand. And there are three crucial elements to crafting a correct slugline: interior or exterior, specific description of a location, and time of day. Typically, most scenes will either be inside or outside a particular location. For interior scenes, you start the slug line with INT, and for exterior scenes, you begin with EXT. However, some scenes may incorporate both inside and outside. For example, if we see a character inside an open convertible, but the car is parked outside, the scene heading would read Interior, Exterior, Convertible, Night. It's also important that we understand where the scene takes place. Be clear, be concise, and pick the heading that best describes the visual situation. For example, if your characters are enjoying a romantic evening after their spontaneous engagement in nuptials in Las Vegas, your slug line might read Interior, Caesar's Palace, Honeymoon Suite, Night. When thinking cinematically, there really are only 4 different visual times of day: dawn, day, dusk, night. 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and noon, they all look exactly the same: day. And 9 p.m., 3 a.m., and midnight look like night. But dusk and dawn have a very specific look. So limit yourself to those 4 visual cues. Avoid statements such as moments later, earlier, in 5 minutes, because we can't actually see those moments visually. A general location will give you a certain flexibility of not forcing the action to occur in a specific place, like Paris, New York, or Hollywood. If you choose to use general locations, keep them free of details. Use broad strokes such as exterior, street corner, day, interior, house, night, or exterior, park, dusk. Using a specific location, however, is helpful to play on the audience's associations. If the exact street corner, type of house, or particular park is important, you might describe using a slug line such as exterior Hollywood and Vine, day, interior Victorian Mansion, night, or exterior Central Park, dusk. Moreover, to play upon the audience's feelings about a particular location, you can use an identifying landmark in the early action paragraphs after the scene heading. For a story that takes place in a large location like a football stadium, it can be helpful to break up the size of the stadium by listing more specific locations within. Exterior at the concession stand, day. Exterior on the playing field, dusk. Or exterior in the stands, night. This can help prevent the audience from becoming confused and helps to compress the size of the scenes into something more manageable. Subheadings can indicate smaller parts of a larger whole. They can also be used in between simultaneous scenes to help ease the reading. At the concession stand, on the playing field, or in the stands. If the action is mostly continuous, subheadings are often the best choice. They typically use a preposition and always use a previously established location. A title card is text on the screen that gives additional background, most frequently used to identify a particular time, place, or date. It can also establish a historical era or separate the screenplay into chapters, as Quentin Tarantino does within Pulp Fiction. Also, a title card can provide essential backstory for the audience, as illustrated in the classic scrolling text in the opening to the films of the Star Wars franchise. But generally, title cards should be used sparingly. In fact, most films don't use them at all and are just fine. If you do decide to use a title card, make sure you have a very specific or stylized use for it. To learn more about Screenplay Format, check out thescriptlab.com and click on our feature format template, which will walk you through all of the aspects of Screenplay Format.